This is the SilverStone PF240. It's an all-in-one 240mm liquid cooler with RGB fans and RGB CPU block. Hey guys, Jonathan here with TechWizTime, where I help you save time and money when it comes to gaming and technology. In this video, we're going to be looking at the SilverStone PF240. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also tickle that bell icon too. Now, SilverStone aren't new to the all-in-one liquid cooler game. They've been in it for a little while now. And you can see an RGB-less model in the TD02 on their website or in the links down in the description below. It's going to cost you about $10 less than this one, but for some people they don't want RGB, so that's always an option for them. But in this video, obviously we're talking about the PF240, so let's keep going with that. So one of the things that I noticed with the SilverStone PF240 is that it's about $30 to $40 cheaper than the other big brands out there. So you're going to pick this one up on Amazon US for about $99. Now for an ARGB all-in-one liquid cooler with RGB fans and CPU block, that's a pretty good price, I think. Actually, a little fun fact, did you know that the A in ARGB stands for addressable? And that basically just means that you can control the RGB-ness in your cooler. How awesome is that? So like I mentioned, this is the 240mm version, or the PF240. They've also got the PF120 and the PF360, which, if you can guess, they're the 120mm and 360mm versions. You can check them out down in the description below as well. When it comes to the sockets that this liquid cooler supports, you've got on the Team Red side, you've got AM2, AM3, AM4, FM1 and FM2 sockets. So a pretty broad range there, especially if you've got an older CPU. Then when we look over on Team Blue's side, we support sockets 775, 115X, which is your 1150 and 1151. You've also got 1366, 2066, and 2011 sockets. So a pretty broad range on the Intel side as well. You will have to excuse me, I've been fighting a flu for the past week and it still sounds terrible. So if you're hearing that, I apologize in advance. So speaking of sockets, when it comes to the one that's installed, you've got the Intel standard one installed already. Switching it out is fairly simple. You just pull it out and then put in the AMD bracket and you're ready to go, basically. Obviously, you've got to put on the little clips so you can clip to the motherboard, but yeah, pretty much ready to go. So some manufacturers pre-grease the thermal block. In this case, SilverStone has opted for a little syringe of thermal grease, so you'll apply that yourself. In terms of cabling, all the cabling here is in black, so you're not going to get that rainbow vomit look inside your sleek case. Even the tubing's in black there, so it's going to match in really well. And speaking of tubing, it is rubberized with a mesh over the top of it, or a woven mesh, I should say. So it will bend around components and so forth. Like I've done here, it's bending around the GPU. So depending on where you mount the radiator, you should be able to get the cabling and the rubberized tube where you need it to be. So when it comes to the actual RGB, the cables are using the 3-pin system, which is fairly common amongst the RGB systems that are out there. That's another thing as well, it's using 5 volt, not 12 volt, so just keep that in mind. So another cool fact with the RGB and the PF240 is that if you're not using the header on a motherboard, say for example your motherboard doesn't have the RGB header, then what you can do is you can use their included ARGB controller. Now I'll just unhook it here. There we go, so you've got 3 controls on there, M, minus, and plus. Okay, so M is the mode. So you'll see you may be able to see, but there's a little green LED underneath there at the moment. That means that it's ready for a mode change. So if I hit plus, it'll change the mode there. Plus again, changes the mode. So what I'll do is I'll go through each of the modes. If you hold down minus, it'll reset to rainbow. There we go. And I've just got a little sheet here to tell me what the modes are, because there's 10 modes. So you've got mode 1 is rainbow, then you've got mode 2, which is breathing, then you've got mode 3, which is flashing, you've got mode 4, which is the layering of 8 colors. So that's white, indigo, violet, yellow, blue, red, green, and orange. All right, so then you've got number 5, which is flowing. And then you've got number 6, which I'll do in a second, which is 256 colors auto switching. So you'll see there it's just fading through the colors. And the main colors there again are white, indigo, violet, yellow, blue, red, green, and orange. Then you've got number 7, which is radar. Then you've got number 8, which is color layering. That one there. Then you've got number 9. Oh, sorry. Number 8 was color layering red. So that's just red, but with color layering, sorry. Then you've got number 9, which is color layering in green. I can't say layering today. Then you've got number 10, which is color layering in blue. How awesome is that? It'd be even more awesome if I looked at the camera. So on top of those 10 modes, you've also got an option there when you press the M button to change the speed. So I can minus that and slow it right down, or I can plus that and speed it right up. And look at that. That might cause some seizures, so just be careful with that one. Then I'll slow that down just a little bit so it isn't as flashy. And then if you press M again, it'll change from the red light underneath to a blue light. And then you can change the brightness, sorry. So if you go to minus, you can actually take the brightness right down. And I'm looking at the monitor to see what it's doing. Sorry, guys. Then you can plus it and change the brightness to max brightness. So yeah, that's the little included ARGB controller that comes with the PF240. How awesome is that? So to power that little ARGB controller, you do need a SATA power connector. If you're powering it via the motherboard, then you don't need that, obviously. Speaking of powering or controlling by the motherboard, the PF240 does support third parties such as MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, and Razer when it comes to the onboard and software that they supply. So SilverStone don't have their own software. They are using the third parties like MSI, Asus, Razer, and Gigabyte, which I've got here. So let's talk about the fans. So the fans that are included are 120mm fans that run at 600 to 2200 RPM. And you can control the speed of these with your motherboard's fan control programs, such as Asus's Fan Expert Plus, MSI's Afterburner, or Gigabyte's Easy Tune. So when it comes to powering the fans, they're done through the standard 4-pin connector. There is an included splitter which takes those two fans and splits it down to one so you can plug that straight into the CPU header, which just means that you can control the speed of the fans based on your temperature of your CPU, for those that aren't aware. The block itself is powered via a 3-pin connector, and that can just be plugged into either if you've got a pump connector on your motherboard, or in my case, I'm just plugging it into the system fan header. So now it comes to the opinion stage, and these are just my opinions. Obviously, your opinion will probably differ from mine, but this is just what I think in terms of pros and cons. So the first pro for the PF240 all-in-one liquid cooler, I've got to say, is probably the included ARGB controller. Having that, if your motherboard doesn't have a RGB header, I think is a huge plus. Let's face it, like, all of us aren't going to be able to go out there and afford a new X570 motherboard or even some of the older generation stuff. If you're still on, say for example, my main work PC is on the old i7-6700K, so that's the Z170 platform. It doesn't have RGB headers on board, so I'm not going to be able to control that if I put it in that case. And the same is probably true for a lot of you guys out there. So if you do want control or a little bit of control over your RGB system with the PF240, then having that little ARGB controller is really beneficial. So kudos for that one. Pro number 2, I've got to say, is the rubber grommets that are included with the system fans. Now, being that they're rubber, they do take a little bit of vibration and noise out of the actual fans itself. Obviously, the spinning is going to create noise, but in terms of vibration, I can still feel some vibration there going through the radiator, but it's not what it would be if there weren't rubber grommets in there. So that basically just helps to cut down on those vibrations. And pro number 3, I've got to say, is the price. So being $99 for this 240mm cooler, the PF240 is pretty reasonably priced. Like, compared to the other big name brands out there, which I won't name, but you're looking at about a $30 to $40, I should say between $30 and $40 more. Language is not good when you're just coming back from the flu, I swear. So yeah, definitely price is a huge factor to be a pro for this PF240 model. All right, so that's the pros out of the way. When it comes to cons, obviously, most products are gonna have a downside, and there's 2 downsides that I can see to this product. This is just for me personally, and it might be for you as well, but we'll see. So con number 1, I've got to say, is the plastic housing around the block feels a little bit cheap. But in saying that, you you're getting this for $99. So plastic housing, yeah, fair enough. It does feel a little bit cheap, but you are only paying $99 for it. And if you want something that's, you know, a little bit more expensive, then you might get a little bit better quality in the CPU block. But in saying that, it doesn't hurt it. It's only plastic. You're not going to be flicking it or feeling it. It's just something that, you know, personally, it's just a little bit of a con for me. And then con number two, this is the difficult one because it could be a plus for some people and it could be a minus for some people as well. So it's about the manual. So with the PF240, you don't actually get the manual in the box. You've got a QR code on the side to download the manual. So when you're just getting your new AIO home and you want to install it, you're going to have to jump on the internet and download that via the QR code. For environmentalists, especially, not having the manual printed on paper is probably a plus. But then it's also a negative for those people that just want to jump straight in, get it installed, and maybe the computer that they're installing it on is their only computer and that's the only internet that they've got. So that could be the con there. So again, it's not a major thing, but it is a little thing in my mind. So all in all, the SilverStone PF240 will be linked down in the description below if you want to check that out. As a growing channel, I do use affiliate links, so if you do click on those, I will get a small kickback. And as a huge bonus, it doesn't cost you anything more. A huge thanks for SilverStone for sending this product out to me to review. If you want to see other SilverStone products that are reviewed on the channel, then you can via the link in the description below. It is a playlist, so you'll be able to sift through and see if there's any SilverStone products there that you want to check out. So like I mentioned, I am trying to grow this channel into something a lot bigger, and you can help me to grow this channel in a couple of different ways. One of them is to, of course, subscribe to this channel and tickle the bell notification icon as well. You can be a huge help and share this video on social media platforms like Facebook, Reddit, or Twitter. And thirdly, you can help make a small contribution to our Patreon campaign. So again, a huge thanks for everyone for watching this video. I really appreciate it, especially if you got this far in the video. And as always, imagine, learn, create.